SAG-AFTRA and the AMPTP have been doing a dance for over 100 days now. And it's mostly been AMPTP has just refused to talk to them. And they had a brief moment of negotiations earlier this month, which the AMPTP just abruptly walked away from. But fortunately, starting this Tuesday, AMPTP and SAG-AFTRA are back at the table. Now, I have been, because today's a Friday, I don't know exactly the timeline on, I know they're negotiating today, but they have not pushed out anything like a statement yet on how negotiations went today. So there could be major changes that happen just during this stream that we'll find out about. But for now, let's get into the coverage. So this is SAG-AFTRA's official press statement from the latest news today. This was their announcement for Tuesday, saying that they would meet for bargaining on Tuesday. And then this is their most recent statement, which was yesterday, October 26th. And it says, "Dear members, today we passed a comprehensive counter across the table to the CEOs. And while talks for the day have ended, our committee just completed working internally tonight. We are scheduled to meet across the table again tomorrow. In solidarity and gratitude, your TV and theatrical negotiating committee." So they have just sent a new offer to the AMPTP. What will happen with that? Kind of hard to say. However, there has been buzz about how the AMPTP is negotiating here. This one says, studios to devote another week to resolve SAG strike or give up until January. Now, before I read this article, I want to point out that automatically this is a negotiating tactic. This is posturing. I don't actually believe it. But let's see it. Yeah, if that's the case, the fall TV season is lost and new movies won't come out until next summer, says Insider. Hollywood studios are giving one more week to negotiations with SAG-AFTRA before they are ready to pack it in for the rest of the year, the Wrap has learned. According to an individual with knowledge of their thinking, the studios believe that if they can't reach a deal in the next week with the Screen Actors Guild, which has been on strike since July 14th, then no new production will be able to start before 2024. If that is the case, the studios further believe, then the fall television season is lost and new movies won't be able to come out until next summer. In this scenario, early November would be the drop-dead date to salvage any ability to put television or movies into production. Once the calendar hits Thanksgiving, it is unlikely any project would begin production, pushing off everything to the new year, this individual said, and killing the studio's incentive to push for a deal. Okay, before we get into this further, there are some realities involved in this. Hollywood usually basically takes about a month off. Basically from Thanksgiving to Christmas, Hollywood is usually not in active production. But that's on a normal year where there aren't strikes and, lots of work stoppages. So while some of this could just be speculation on how Hollywood generally tends to operate, the thinking is, oh, well, if the strike goes all the way to Thanksgiving, then of course they're not going to get anything done because that's break time, except that break time is when, when you've been doing regular work, and Hollywood hasn't been able to do regular work for most of the year. So I think people would probably not go on vacation as much. And also, this sounds like a scare tactic, to be like, oh, we got to get this deal in now. Otherwise, well, you might be off strike, but we won't give you any work for another 2 months. But don't believe it. Don't believe it for a second. Hollywood is desperate for their productions to resume. All that puts significant pressure on the talks going on this week. The CEOs from 4 of the major entertainment conglomerates, Disney's Bob Iger, Netflix's Ted Sarandos, Warner Brothers Discovery's David Zaslav, and NBC Universal's Donna Langley will meet anew on Thursday with SAG-AFTRA. Okay, so this was a couple days ago because it's now Friday. Thursday with SAG-AFTRA President Fran Drescher and Chief Negotiator Duncan Crabtree Ireland and their legal teams in an effort to reach a contract. Okay, some of this is just recapping what we know. The Guild decided to skip further bargaining on Wednesday so they could discuss the offer. Okay, so they had presented a counteroffer on Tuesday, and PTP presented a counteroffer on Tuesday. SAG-AFTRA responded on Thursday with theirs. They're in negotiations today. That is currently where we're at. So until we have a further update there, I kind of wanted to cover this story from Deadline. And as I often say on this channel, Deadline, as well as Variety and The Hollywood Reporter, they're industry rags, so often they are a reliable source of information for, production details and Hollywood and stuff like that, but they are all owned by the same parent company, Penske Media, which owns Dick Clark Productions, which is a member of the AMPTP, who's negotiating with SAG-AFTRA right now. So, even if the journalists themselves are not, in the AMPTP's pocket, editorial control over what gets written about, what stories are being covered, and, how the titles are written, is very, very important to keep in mind that there is a financial incentive to have the AMPTP come out on top. So, here we have thousands of stars, including Sarah Paulson, Chelsea Handler, John Hamm, Daveed Diggs, Christian Slater, and Sandra Oh tell SAG-AFTRA leadership we would rather stay on strike than take a bad deal. Now this, on its face, sounds pretty good, but I'm going to get into the ways that it's being. This is a little bit of a trick here. A group of high-profile actors have signed a public letter declaring that they would rather stay on strike than accept a bad deal. Thousands of stars, including Sarah Paulson, Chelsea Handler, Christian Slater, Sandra Oh, Daveed Diggs, Pedro Pascal, and Cal Penn have signed the letter, which is addressed to the SAG-AFTRA negotiating committee. I'm going to read the full letter, so I'm not going to. I'll skip over that. We'll get to that at the end. Let's see. Other signatories include Carrie-Anne Moss, Christine Baranski, Jason Alexander, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Kristen Chenoweth, Leslie Odom Jr., Lizzie Kaplan, Richard Schiff, Simon Pegg, Timothy Oliphant, Zachary Quinto, Titus Welver, Simon Helberg, John Hamm, Rosanna Arquette, Pamela Adlin, Noah Weil, Maya Hawke, Margaret Cho, Lena Dunham, Kim Raver, Joshua Jackson, Helen Hunt, David Harewood, and Carrie Coon. That's a lot of names. The move comes after a separate group of actors, including George Clooney, Scarlett Johansson, Kerry Washington, Tyler Perry, Bradley Cooper, Meryl Streep. Yeah, all of these people made their own offer to help end the strike. This was referring to the plan that they had presented to SAG leadership, where they wanted to remove the $1 million cap on paying SAG dues, so that that could go toward helping out lower paid members of SAG. But the trades were reporting it as if it was like division within the union, where they're like, we're doing this so that we can end the strike, rather than what it actually was, which was a gesture of goodwill to be like, hey, we can help out here. But what do you think is my issue with this? Now, okay, so we've got the full letter here, but I'm actually not going to read it here. I'm going to read it on the page itself. It says, a group of high-profile actors, thousands of stars. But look at this. Thousands of stars? I mean, all the names we read, those, there's a couple of them I don't know here, but I recognize most of them. But how many, A-listers are there in Hollywood? Is it thousands? I mean, maybe, but did they all sign on? Let's go take a look at the actual letter so that we can find out what's actually going on here. An open letter from SAG-AFTRA members. To our SAG-AFTRA negotiating committee. Back in June, before we went on strike, a large group of members signed an open letter telling our leaders that we would rather go on strike than take a bad deal. Now, more than 100 days into our strike, that is still true. As hard as this is, we would rather stay on strike than take a bad deal. We have not come all this way to cave now. We have not gone without work, without pay, and walked picket lines for months just to give up on everything we've been fighting for. We cannot and will not accept a contract that fails to address the vital and existential problems that we all need fixed. In any union, there will always be a minority who are not willing to make temporary sacrifices for the greater good, but we, the majority who voted overwhelmingly to authorize this strike, are still standing in solidarity, ready to strike as long as it takes and to endure whatever we must in order to win a deal that is worthy of our collective sacrifice. We know that our union leaders are doing everything in their power to achieve that goal as they negotiate in good faith with the companies to arrive at a new contract that will protect us and our fellow performers now and for generations to come. Everything we have as a union, every minimum payment, health and pension benefit, residual, royalty, and workplace protection, it has all been won with the power of our members, the power of our solidarity, the power of standing together as one to demand what is right, what is fair, and what we deserve. You have our trust, our support, and our power behind you now. One day longer, one day stronger, for as long as it takes, in solidarity. And I don't know if you can see how small the scroll bar is here, but why don't we take a look at the member list? Some of these names are recognized. Adam Conover. You can keep going. Alice Eve, I recognize her. She was in a Star Trek movie. This keeps going. We're still in the A's. These are not all stars. These are actors. These are like just regular actors in Hollywood. Ashley Nicole Black, I recognize that name. I don't know if I've seen her in anything. Bills, I know some of these Bills. Billy Eichner, yeah, I know him. Anyway, this is, let's speed this up. This is not a list of stars. This is a list of actors. They're not the same thing. A star is usually like an A-lister, somebody who headlines. These are working people. Now, certainly, there are some like, you know, well-known names in this list, but a lot of these people, you might have seen them in something, but you don't know who they are. They're just the working people. They're the people that need this strike win the most. So for Deadline to say it's stars and it's the top tier talent standing up, what they're saying is, oh yeah, no, all the rich people, all the people who are doing well in Hollywood, yeah, no, they're totally willing to keep going with the strike. But that's not what this list is. This list is your average working Joe in Hollywood who has to wait tables to supplement their income because they're not making enough as an actor. These are the people that the strike is about. We have just hit the end of it. So when Deadline says stars and picks the most well-known names from it, the narrative that they're giving is, and actually, why don't I just take a look at the comments down here? Because I took a look at some of these comments. Here's the top one. Too bad. All these people named can afford it. Yeah, okay, so there's a bunch of comments here, but the top one right there, like, all these people named can afford it, that is the impression that the editor who picked this headline was going for. They were going, hey, look at all these out-of-touch rich guys who say, oh yeah, we can hold it out. We're good. So be aware of how the media spins this. Anyway, why don't I go one more time? Let's refresh. It's after 5. Nope, we don't have an update yet. If there is an update before this video goes out, I will probably record an offline segment, or if something breaks later in stream, I can append it to this. But remember what they're fighting for, and let's hope that they can get a good deal this week. And if not this week, remember, the studio may say it's this week or never, but that's all bluster. They need them. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm trying to get my channel monetized, so your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell. I stream every Monday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons, with a very special shout out to my Whale Shark tier patron Ryan D and my Anemone Friend tier patron Piftle Cakes. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.